Year 3 for wide receivers in the NFL might actually be more important than their sophomore season. So today, we're going to go through wide receivers in the 2023 NFL draft class, discuss their future outlook for the 2025 fantasy football season, and what it means for your fantasy football teams in your fantasy football drafts this year. And the reason why I say year 3 might be more important than year 2, fellas, is that it's actually a statistical fact that there is a 4% increase in fantasy football breakouts in year 3 for wide receivers than it is in year 2. So it's important to actually look at year 3 if these wide receivers haven't broken out yet and not just mail it in on them. Like Nico Collins is the perfect example of this. Once he got CJ Stroud, strap a rocket on his back because he was going to the moon. He broke out in year 3. So we're going to go ahead and cover these year 3 wide receivers. We're going to cover it in order by current ADP over on Underdog as well, because that's where fantasy football drafts are actually happening right now. So Puka Nacua is currently going as the wide receiver 4 overall over on Underdog with an ADP of about 8 overall. Have we hit the ceiling yet with Puka Nacua? Is there any way like we're going to hit a glass ceiling with Davante Adams this year? What is the limiting point here for Puka Nacua, if there is one?
As long as Matthew Stafford's there, and Sean McVay, I really don't see a ceiling for Puka Nacua. I don't see any reason he can't be the wide receiver 1. He was wide receiver 3 in points per game last year. He was wide receiver 4 his rookie season. It just doesn't feel like there's anything he can't do. And in both seasons, he had 3 touchdowns in 11 games last year and only 6 in the 17 games the season before. So he's not even doing it off the back of touchdowns. He's just out there catching every pass that's thrown his way, getting open constantly, and racking up yards. So if we see a double-digit touchdown season from Puka, absolutely no reason that he couldn't finish as a wide receiver 1 overall.
I think you named a really important part there, Cameron, too, of he can literally do it all. And what I like about Davante Adams is, well, so can he. You can start mixing Puka into the slot if you need to. You can kick Davante Adams outside if you want Davante, being the older wide receiver, to stay in the slot and just get crafty in there. You totally can. But I think with the pairing of Davante Adams, it actually gives more versatility to Puka Nacua rather with Cooper Kupp. He's mostly playing in the slot in 3 wide receiver sets versus you can slide Puka in and out of there if you want to. What about for you, Ty? Is there, again, I'll use the phrase glass ceiling here just because that might be the only word to use, like a limited ceiling for Puka, but I'm kind of with Cameron here. I think there's still wide receiver 1 overall upside.
Totally. And I think just off of the back of last year being a top 5 wide receiver in usage on a per game basis, if he finds the end zone more often, why can't he be the number 1 guy? Yep. And you could sit there and say, like, well, Ja'Marr Chase could literally get 200 targets. Fine. That's probably the only one I will accept, because if you just match him to league average for touchdowns at the wide receiver position, he's instantly top 3. And like wide receiver 4, it's 1 spot. So I think the sky is the limit. Like Puka Nacua, I agree with you guys, like can be the number 1 overall wide receiver.
Yeah, I think comparing it to Ja'Marr Chase, T. Higgins is a really helpful way to look at it. Now, albeit T. Higgins isn't the most healthy wide receiver in the world, but hey, you know what? If Ja'Marr Chase can do it with a extremely solid wide receiver 2 in his offense, just as Puka Nacua now gets with Davante Adams, why can't Puka replicate that as well in what will likely be a pass-happy Rams offense this year? We're going to keep diving into year 3 wide receivers, though. Before we go any further, though, we're starting to dive into redraft season. So if you're a fantasy football fanatic, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell as well. I promise, if you love fantasy football, you're going to love the content here on this channel, because that's literally all we do year round. Whether it's dynasty, best ball, redraft content, we have something for you. So we appreciate if you show us the love. Leave a like on the video, hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell as well. Jaxon Smith-Njigba is the 2nd highest drafted wide receiver, fellas. He is currently going as a wide receiver 16 with an ADP right around 28th overall. Cam, you mentioned it in the podcast, the audio intro, that we've had like Jaxon Smith-Njigba's rookie season left more to be desired. Yet last season, we finally saw the splash of a breakout, the glimmer of a breakout there, if he truly is the wide receiver 1 for this offense. Where does he actually stand, though? Are we actually going to get a year 3 breakout here where he truly becomes an alpha, sort of like a Nico Collins, if you will? Or do we need to limit our expectations a little bit with the addition of Cooper Kupp, with the uncertainty of Sam Darnold, with the change of offensive coordinator? There's a lot of variables here for Jaxon Smith-Njigba. So what can we expect going into year 3, Cameron?
Yeah, there's 191 vacated targets right now. So he has room to step into this. Right? There's a path that we could see 160, 150 target season from JSN, that he could bump his targets up considerably. And it's just the question of, is that who JSN is? I think he's an extremely talented wide receiver. I think he has the potential to do that. I don't know exactly how much more fantasy points he's going to get with Sam Darnold compared to Geno. I think there's still question marks out there of how good is Sam Darnold actually without, a pretty decent offensive line that the Vikings put forward, without Justin Jefferson, without Kevin O'Connell. Is he going to just fit into the same role Geno was, or are we going to find out Geno was actually significantly better than where Sam Darnold was at? So I think there's a lot of questions, which is why we're seeing him at the wide receiver 16 currently. I think he can take another step forward. I just don't know how much higher he's actually going to finish. Right. That was one thing Ty and I talked about yesterday, or not yesterday, on Monday or Tuesday, excuse me, that
one of those days.
The top 10 wide receivers is so packed. I mean, it's Jefferson, Chase, CD. We just talked about Puka. You throw in Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas, AJ Brown, Drake London, Nico, right? So many guys in there that it's like, I just don't know how much higher JSN can actually finish.
That's the question, is how higher can he actually finish? I mean, we saw it last year where he had that stretch without DK Metcalf, where he indeed, I believe, was a top 7 wide receiver in PPR formats in fantasy football. Cooper Kupp is added to this team. He's going to demand targets. I don't think you're just going to see 100 targets just funneled to JSN automatically. Those got to get redistributed somewhere. Cooper Kupp, I think, still has a little bit of juice left in him, but where are you at, Ty? How high can Jaxon Smith-Njigba actually go this year?
I struggle to put him into that like top 12 conversation, because then you're getting into the Ladd McConkeys of the world.
Right.
And what Cam and I even talked about in last episode is that it really starts at that wide receiver 12 spot with T. Higgins and probably goes to 25 at least, where you're like, it could finish any kind of way and it would make sense and there would be no gripes about it. So for JSN, in some weird way, we kind of saw it last year with DK Metcalf, but like, we need JSN to be the target getter. Like, there is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. This guy is going to put up at least 140. I would even say like he needs to see like 150 targets, which
at least and
I just struggle with it, because if he's going to see that many targets, I want him moving around the formation. And look, we were semi in on Clint Kubiak in New Orleans last year, that we were kind of in on Chris Olave because of the modern offense that Clint Kubiak can bring. But I just look at the personnel of that wide receiver room and I go, okay, there's JSN, but then you've got Cooper Kupp. That I'm not going to sit here and say that they are clones of each other, but they do a lot of very similar things. Maybe JSN has a little more verticality to his game, so maybe there's some intrigue and big play potential in that. But again, I just see so many question marks where, again, offensive line fails Sam Darnold, or Sam Darnold regresses because it's not a Kevin O'Connell offense or whatever it is, that JSN sure could still have a relatively solid season being in that 15 to 20 range. But taking him as the wide receiver 16, literally right behind Garrett Wilson, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Tyreek Hill, you're kind of buying in that he can finish in that range of players as well.
So I immediately want to address the reality that people are going to look at JSN in PPR formats last year and say that he finished as the wide receiver 9, which is a true statement. He finished as a top 10 wide receiver last year. So we know that's within the range of outcomes. The problem is you look at his points per game. His 14.9 fantasy points per game was the wide receiver 20. That's your range for JSN. The range for JSN is he probably can't finish as like around the wide receiver 7 if he commands all the targets, if he takes that year 3 leap, if we get a Nico Collins year 3-esque season from him. At the same time, though, things can go completely right, yet the ceiling might actually only be the wide receiver 15 in fantasy points per game, which is right around where he's being drafted right now. So that's the reality we need to name is yes, you can look at the total PPR points and say, well, with injuries and everything else aside, he was a top 10 wide receiver, but on a points per game basis, he was well outside the top 10. So just things to consider with JSN. I think he's still a great player to target in drafts. I think when you look at this tier on your screen, if you're looking at underdog ADP right now, it's Garrett Wilson, Marv, Tyreek, JSN, Terry McLaurin, Rashee Rice back to back to back. We're going to talk about Rashee Rice in just a moment. This tier of wide receivers to me is just so flat. I can make a case for any of them to be a top 10 guy, to be a top 12 guy, to be the breakout guy this year. Man, I mean, Tyreek Hill already broke out how many years ago, but you get my point. Look, even after Devontae Adams in the Rams offense, there's a case he could be a top 15 guy this year, top 12 guy this year. There's a case he could outscore JSN this year. But let's hone it in on Rashee Rice, because while he was healthy last season, oh boy, he was in line to beat the steal of drafts. I mean, it was absolutely phenomenal what he was doing in those three games and 4 snaps, as Cameron, you put in the notes here. It's 21 fantasy points per game in those games. I mean, it's just stupid. It's just stupid. So barring his recovery is going well, barring there's no suspension going into this season, I'm wondering if wide receiver 18 might actually be the best value of all the wide receivers in this very big range from Ladd McConkey to Devontae Adams. What do you all think about that statement?
Yeah, I mean, you want to talk about target hog. That's what he showed he is. The end stretch of 2023, the first 3 games last year, obviously going to be a little more interesting now that we saw Xavier Worthy start to kind of break out. I don't want to say breakout, but had a
came on at the end of last season. Yeah,
decent stretch at the end of 2024. So it'll be interesting in just which, how are they going to utilize him? Like you said, there is a lot of question marks around him of the legal stuff, the injury, all that's kind of up in the air. But if all that kind of goes away, if he quiets the injury concerns pretty early on in training camp, like you said, I mean, attached to Patrick Mahomes and the role that Andy Reid has seemed to like to use him, where he's a red zone threat and he gets a ton of targets and he can be a yak monster, that's going to be really hard to not like him, at his current ADP.
Right. So I think that is the question we do need to address here, Ty, is what is going to be the split between Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy? Because the other thing you also have to factor in here now, let's not pretend that Travis Kelce is his old self. Let's not pretend that he's probably in his final year in the NFL. And that doesn't mean he's going to get peppered with 130 targets like he used to. I think you could easily see Rashee Rice still be the target leader on this team, obviously, but to a point where he actually is taking a step forward because Travis Kelce is taking such a big step back. But where are you on that? That's just like I'm going to insert my thoughts before I kick it to you. But what is the balance going to be between Rashee Rice, between Xavier Worthy, between Travis Kelce, and I mean, let's not forget they drafted Jalen Royals in the 4th round as well, who they do seem fairly positive on as well. I also really love Jalen Royals in this offense, but we're not talking about rookie wide receivers. We're talking about year 3 wide receiver. So I'll shut up now. Ty, give me your thoughts. How's this split going to pan out?
Yeah, well, they were high on Sky Moore, and we all know how that worked out.
Hey, they took him in the 2nd round, though. They took a little bit less risk there on Jalen Royals in the 4th.
So I look at this kind of trio of Travis Kelce, Rashee Rice, and Xavier Worthy, and I look at the usage and the routes that each guy ran, and I'm kind of mind blown that we don't see that like Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice aren't going to be like working against each other and doing the same things. I literally said in the last episode, 60% of Worthy's routes last year were either downfield, so your go routes and your corners and your posts, or close to, if not behind the line of scrimmage. So design touches, screens, all that stuff. Rashee Rice, I just wanted, because we had such a small sample size last year, the 4 most, his 4 routes that he ran the most: slants, outs, hitches, and crossers. Okay. That's a lot of football talk, but guess what? Xavier Worthy doesn't run those routes. Okay. And even in Rashee Rice's kind of hot streak that he went on in his rookie year, slants, outs, hitches, crossers, nearly 66% of his routes were one of those 4 routes.
Yeah.
like Xavier Worthy is not the same kind of player. Yes, like you because he is a first round wide receiver, he is going to be another mouth to feed. But we see this with offenses all the time. You do have to feed multiple people. You can't just force feed one guy unless your name is literally like Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, which Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy are not those guys. So again, I see a world where actually they are very complementary to each other.
Yes.
Sure, there may be some inconsistencies because it may be an Xavier Worthy game because because the defense doesn't have a guy to match up against him. But in other weeks, it may be a Rashee Rice game. And like you said, to kind of tee this up for me, if Travis Kelce takes yet another step backwards, it's going to be Rashee Rice that gets most of those kind of vacated targets, if we want to call it those already. Sure, Worthy will get some, but I again, my biggest point is that Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, and Travis Kelce, they're all going to work together. Not one, they do not overlap with each other so much where there is an overvalued guy. I talked about Worthy being a bit of a struggle for me because of inconsistencies, but I agree with you with what you said at the top with Rashee Rice. This is probably one of my favorite values of receivers in this range because the upside is 1000% there, and we've seen it before.
Yeah, the point that you named is the most important part. Is look at where these dudes are running their routes. Look at where they're being targeted. Rashee Rice is everything in the intermediate middle portion of the field. Xavier Worthy is attacking the perimeters, and that's what Jalen Royals is going to be doing too. And the telltale sign with Xavier Worthy is that we were all clamoring for Xavier Worthy to finally start running some of these crossing routes, the intermediate part of the field routes last year, and they just wouldn't do it. Even with Rashee Rice not on the field, they wouldn't do it. Go ahead. You want to give me the numbers on Worthy's routes last year?
Well, I don't have the numbers, but I can tell you why they never had him run those.
I mean,
because the guy is $160.
Yeah, right. I was gonna say he would literally snap in half if he's getting hammered over the middle of the field. I mean, you would be without Xavier Worthy then too. That's very
exactly true. Like if you can't get the guy on a free release, I'm not saying that like he can't break off of coverage with his speed. But that's the issue is he needs that kind of free release to get up to speed to burn DBs. If he can't get that, it's not that he's then out of the play, but he then struggles. And I think that's where Rashee Rice can also maybe find some more success then is that Xavier Worthy does get, I don't want to say he's going to get locked up, but maybe Rashee Rice is going to be more first read than we anticipate.
Well, and if the trend of the NFL is going to be to continue playing too high safety and back, don't get burned over the top. That the intermediate middle portion part of the field where Rashee Rice is going to be is what's going to continue being the focal point of Andy Reid's offense. They've been content just dinking and dunking. The Chiefs have become one of the most fun offenses to watch in the NFL. To now, over the last year and a half, they've been like one of the most boring ground and pound dink and dunk offenses in the league, and that's because they killed a league that was playing single high safety for how long. They kill him on the go routes with not Xavier Worthy, but the likes of Tyreek Hill, all their speedsters that can burn you downfield. Now defenses across the league are playing too high safety all the time. Okay, well, all right, we'll just beat you underneath them, which a broken record. That's exactly what Rashee Rice says. Anything you want to add before we transition to, well, maybe not because this next part's good. We're going to keep this next part short for this next player.
No, I don't need to add anything. I think he's, like you said, it's just the upside is so evident with what we saw last year. I mean, we shouldn't extrapolate a small sample size. It's not good, but 17 game pace of 136 receptions and 163 targets. So that'd be pretty cool.
We'll transition to Zay Flowers here, and we'll keep this portion short because if you've been hanging out with us in the offseason, we've already expressed our dismay, our dissatisfaction with Zay Flowers and how people continue to hold out hope for Zay Flowers, and maybe not hold out hope, but maybe convince themselves that taking him towards his ceiling is worth it, when in reality his floor is significantly lower than where his ADP actually is. And that's kind of crazy saying, he's a wide receiver 27 right now. It's just tough to see him have a better opportunity than an MVP-esque season from Lamar Jackson last year, where he's throwing for 4,200 yards and 41 touchdowns. if Zay can't get a piece of those 41 touchdowns, or unless if we see his touchdown percentage absolutely spike, like you're drafting him as the wide receiver 27. I suppose there's probably worse picks you can make. But at the same time, it feels like you're drafting the wide receiver 27 to be the wide receiver 27, and you're not getting much upside there. Is that a fair statement in your mind, Cameron?
Yeah, it's like I say it every time. Like I really like Zay Flowers as an NFL wide receiver. It's just this offense has not been good for wide receivers since Lamar came to town. And that's not saying Lamar's not a good passer, like he said. 4,000 yards and 40 touchdowns. Like I don't know how much more you could ask for from your quarterback, and yet we're still barely seeing him crack the top 25 wide receivers last year. Mark Andrews was almost droppable, and he still can barely crack top 25 wide receivers. So maybe if he found the end zone, we could see him, kind of get a bump up. But I really don't want to bank on touchdowns from a 5'9", 182-pound wide receiver. Like that's just what it comes down to at the same time, is that's what upside is going to be contingent on. And I just don't feel like that's a good bet.
I would agree with that. Zay Flowers is just going to need only 9 touchdowns on 100. And did I do the math right on that? I don't think I did. That was on his receptions. Oh boy. I was doing the math quick on his touchdown percentage for his career. I'm going to have that number here momentarily. He needs a much higher touchdown percentage than 4% if we're going to see a jump from him in fantasy football. Only 9 touchdowns on 224 targets. So if Lamar Jackson is going to regress, and not to a point where Lamar Jackson is going to stink, but nobody's projecting him to throw 40 plus touchdowns again next year. Let's say he regresses to like 31 touchdowns, right? Less opportunity for Zay Flowers to score, and boy, he better have a large share of that if we're going to see a breakout from Zay Flowers next year in fantasy football, because Ty, that does kind of feel like what's missing. Nearly 110 targets, 112 on average over his first 2 seasons in an offense that isn't prone to passing a lot to begin with. I don't think the targets go up in any capacity, so it feels like the only out is the touchdowns, and that just feels like a tough bet to make for a 5'9", 182-pound guy.
Yeah, 1,000%. I mean, if people will look at the target share for Zay Flowers and see that he's top 15, and then you have to put this into context where Baltimore doesn't throw the ball a lot. And you could simplify it down to, is this a good run defense that Baltimore is going up against or not? Because if it's not a good run defense, there is just no need for Zay Flowers to step up. And the touchdowns will be the biggest kind of red flag that you look at, because Rashad Bateman, like out of nowhere, just kind of stepped up as more of a red zone or, as the better weapon or more preferred weapon, I would even say, compared to Zay Flowers when they got closer to the end zone. So now you add in DeAndre Hopkins, and look, I know DeAndre Hopkins is not the same as he used to be. It's just another mouth that actually could demand targets near the red zone, because he is still that kind of big bodied wide receiver. So Zay Flowers, I don't think there's nothing wrong with saying he's the number 1 guy in this Baltimore offense.
Yeah.
But I'm going to just keep bringing this home that Baltimore, Buffalo, Green Bay, these offenses don't necessarily feel like they need to force feed a guy a ton of targets. They're going to spread the ball out. They're going to run everything. Everything that they do is going to be based on the run, and it works in the NFL. But if you're not getting the right guy in that offense for fantasy, you're going to be left disappointed, because if you don't have the Derrick Henry, but you have Zay Flowers, like you may have had last year, it's going to leave a sour taste in your mouth.
And it doesn't help either that when the Ravens get to the goal line, they're not doing any cute manufactured touch stuff for Zay Flowers on jet sweeps or getting him a shovel pass up the middle, whatever it may. He's not getting any manufactured touches. He's not running slants across the middle, quick slant for a 2-yard touchdown. He's not getting any of those. Not when you have a manimal in Derrick Henry. Not when you have Lamar Jackson, who could just take it in himself. Not when you have Mark Andrews, who's been a red zone threat for his entire career. I mean, when you get to the pecking order inside of the 10-yard line, Zay Flowers is probably what? 5th in line? 4th in line? There's just not much room for those touchdowns to get above 4 or 5 touchdowns at his size. So Could he get to 6 or 7? Golly, I would hope so. That'd be wonderful. But boy, he needs to have a touchdown percentage higher than 4%. If we're going to see any sort of a leap from him as the wide receiver 27 in drafts right now. On the other hand, Jordan Addison has a 9% touchdown percentage for his career. Basically, 1 in every 10 balls he catches goes for a touchdown. Yet he's being drafted after Zay Flowers. And my guess is that this is in part because of a lot of different things. One, you have J.J. McCarthy stepping in as a quarterback now. You don't have Sam Darnold. You don't have Kirk Cousins anymore. 2, you have T.J. Hawkinson, who's going to be fully healthy this year now, and he's going to command his targets, probably similar to a percentage that he did before he was injured back in, 2023. Basically, you have to ask the question of, would I rather have just like the wide receiver 27 floor kind of locking in of Zay Flowers, or would I rather take Jordan Addison as the wide receiver 33, knowing that he can finish as a top 20 wide receiver as well with how many touchdowns he can catch? So is this just the normal for Jordan Addison that we just have to get used to? And like, maybe it won't be like a massive breakout, especially if you're playing behind Justin Jefferson. I mean, nobody's going to sit here and tell you that Jordan Addison is going to be a breakout wide receiver 1 this year, but should we actually just kind of expect an average of 9 to 10 touchdowns every year for Jordan Addison, because that's just kind of what he's been doing?
Yeah, I mean, in our notes, I compared it to Calvin Ridley when he was with Julio Jones.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That rookie season for Ridley, 10 touchdowns. You're like, I can't keep that up. Then he went 7 and 9 the next 2 years with Julio playing next to him. And it kind of feels like Jordan Addison's getting that kind of treatment, because once you get to the red zone, the sole focus of every defense is Jefferson. It is strictly Jefferson, and it has to be, right? They don't have a choice, because otherwise it's a touchdown. And so it kind of feels like that's where he's getting the bump from. Obviously, the worry this year is J.J. McCarthy, T.J. Hawkinson fully back healthy. How does that all shake out? What are we going to see from Addison? But half PPR last season, he had more points per game than JSN. And we're talking about JSN as a top 10 wide receiver. He played all 17 games. Right. He finishes ahead of JSN in your rankings, and we're probably having a very different conversation than the guy who's currently going as the wide receiver 33. And I do think it is a little bit of a bet on JJ McCarthy here. If you think McCarthy can step in and you think he can hit 3,500 to 4,000 yards, if you think he can hit 25 plus touchdowns, Addison's probably a great value. If you think he's going to struggle his first year, then I understand why we're being a little bit more hesitant on Addison. But I think Sam Darnold last year gives me the confidence in JJ McCarthy this year and what Kevin O'Connell's offense can do for a quarterback that's stepping into it.
Yeah, Ty, you've spoken positively of this Kevin O'Connell scheme before and how you're a believer in J.J. McCarthy. Go ahead, jump in here on Jordan Addison. Is not necessarily see a value at 33, but is what he's been producing what we can continue expecting? I don't know if we can sit here and say he's going to take a leap forward, but I think the fair question to ask, can we continue expecting the production that Addison has been giving us over his first 2 seasons?
See, I see this one of 2 ways, where I look back at last year with Sam Darnold and I go, there are not enough fingers on my hands to count the amount of times where Jordan Addison is wide open in the red zone.
Yeah.
And Sam Darnold is staring him down and decides to move off it because he's going to try to find Jefferson.
I don't want the easy one. I don't want the easy one. I'm worth $40 million. I'll take the hard decision.
Exactly. So there's that side of it where it's like, don't mistake like the whole red zone usage in the passing game as a facade. Like, it is a legitimate thing that Jordan Addison is open and he just was not targeted for whatever the reason. But there, on the flip side of this, on the other side of the coin, we do have a possible suspension coming for Jordan Addison because of his DUI arrest last offseason. So there's that piece of it. TJ Hawkinson's going to be, I'm going to assume, closer, if not at 100% health now after last year, where he's had half a season and now an off season to kind of get back into the speed and groove. after his knee injury. And as much as people don't want to admit it, the Vikings adding Jordan Mason actually matters. Okay. And the way that they beefed up the offensive line, they are sick and tired of not being able to run the ball when they get closer to the goal line. So, not saying that all red zone opportunities are going to get wiped away, but you're facing another person, another mouth to feed in that area of the field. And now you're going to have the run game aspect that you have to worry about. So, again, this is where I'm torn because he can do it, but there's just added, I'll call them obstacles now that he kind of has to overcome. And it's just a bet that you will have to feel like you want to take on. If you're comfortable with it, then you're fine with Jordan Addison. But for me, I'm a little skeptic because, again, when you make that much of a commitment to the run game and you're going to have another fully healthy piece like TJ Hawkinson, who we all love in this Kevin O'Connell offense as well, something's going to give.
I do want to talk a little bit of ADP here. I want to compare Jordan Addison, a year 3 wide receiver, to a year 4, kind of a year 3 wide receiver too, in Jameson Williams, who's going as the wide receiver 27. Similar concerns. No Ben Johnson anymore. They draft Isaac Tesla in the 3rd round. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to overtake Jameson Williams, but like,
nice little player.
Well, not in the 3rd round, but that's a conversation for another time. I don't quite understand why Jameson Williams is going 6 spots ahead of Addison, when I actually think there's a little bit more like offensive concerns and usage concerns around Jameson Williams. Jordan Addison too finished with more fantasy points per game than Jameson Williams last year, as well, albeit, caught 2 more touchdowns. But I digress. Like, do they not feel like similarly baked risks? Where why would I take Jameson when I could get Jordan Addison as the wide receiver 33? Like, am I missing something there? I am thinking from like an ADP perspective now of like, why are we pushing? There has to be something I'm missing from Addison, because people will say JMO for the spike weeks. That's where they're drafting him. Great, I'll take Jordan Addison for his spike weeks when he catches 2 touchdowns. Like, is that not? Are we not comparing it apples to apples there to some extent?
I think the only thing that really sticks out is just the quarterback. We've seen it from Goff year after year. I understand Ben Johnson's gone, so you've seen it from Goff, so you have more stability there. Where JJ McCarthy is just that unknown that's being thrown into it, and for a wide receiver, quarterback matters a lot, especially when you're wide receiver 2. And so I think that's really what it comes from. I do think, the way Detroit's offense moved last year, I think they, those players kind of get the benefit of the doubt. Whereas Minnesota moving quarterbacks, I think they're, we see the uncertainty baked into it. So I don't think it's necessarily that Addison is like crazy bad of an ADP. I think it's more like JMO, I think we're just assuming is fine, where there is more uncertainty that we kind of should have baked into his ADP.
I also just say, being 4 spots behind, I think that is more, in my eyes at least, that's more suspension related than anything. Like, because I think if you're comparing just 17 game forecasting between the 2 guys, I would quite literally have Jameson and Addison right next to each other.
Yeah, right.
Because I see them at like almost identical.
Yeah. Okay. So and if you want to say it's the suspension risk baked in there, sure, totally fine. I can understand that. Then I just is that the only thing driving it? I felt like I had to ask a question based on the ADP that I was seeing. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with 5 more year 3 wide receivers after we hear from our friends over at Underdog. Today's podcast episode is brought to you by our friends over at Underdog Fantasy. Now, we love Underdog. It is the easiest place to play best ball formats, and they even have their own form of player props called Pick'em. You can make up to 20 times your money on a single night by correlating props together. 2 picks will triple your money, 3 will 6 times it, 4 will 10 times it, and 5 plays that all hit will multiply your entry by 20. You can even place insurance on your picks too, so if only 4 of your 5 props hit, you still get 10 times your entry. And if you use our code FELLAS when signing up, Underdog is going to double your first deposit up to $100. Alrighty, we are back. Talked about Puka Nacua, JSN, Rashee Rice, Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison so far going into year 3. We're getting to the back half of this episode now, starting off with Jayden Reed with the Green Bay Packers, currently going as a wide receiver 44, 80th overall over on Underdog. I think the tweet that we need to start with, Cameron, is one that you sent to our group chat. And I'll go ahead and I'll let you read it to us, because I think that's really where we have to start this discussion, because they drafted Matthew Golden in the first round, yet the comments of the franchise make it seem like they spent a first round pick on a wide receiver that's not actually going to be their wide receiver one.
Yeah, Packers told Jayden Reed his status as the top wide receiver won't be affected by additions of Matthew Golden and Savion Williams. And I guess
I hope it wouldn't by Savion Williams, by the way. I sure hope it wouldn't.
And my issue is, how many teams are playing their wide receiver 67% of snaps? You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I get it. Like, you want to call him your wide receiver 1, you think he's your best wide receiver. But why are we not finding more ways to get him on the field? And people, I hear all the time, well, he gets targets when he's out there. He's still only at a 16% target share last year. He doesn't. You're lying to yourself, right? I mean, it's just, that doesn't feel like wide receiver 1 to me. So that's what gets me, is you hear comments like this of your role won't be impacted. If I'm drafting Jayden Reed, I want his role to expand. Like, I want to see more Jayden Reed on the field. I want to see him not just be a slot guy on a team who is between 10 and 15th and 11 personnel, right? I want to see them use him. And like you said, you added Matthew Golden. You can tell me that all you want, but when you take a guy with the 22nd pick, I wasn't 22nd. That's his number, the number he's wearing, a pick in the 20s, 23rd pick. It's telling me that, you know what, your role might be impacted just a little bit.
So the helpful metric to look at here, I think, when you're concerned about a guy like Jayden Reed, because you're right, Cameron, 60% target share, he's not really earning targets. So I want to look at the routes run, that he's out there out on the field, 67% of the snaps where he's running routes. He, to his credit last season, he was, of all wide receivers with at least 50 targets, he was the wide receiver 12 in fantasy points per route run. The problem is it's still not enough. Right. Yeah, right. Your thumb is like, great. Yeah, cool.
He's 60th in routes run. So it's like, who cares?
Right. Which is then you have to go down that rabbit trail of like, okay, then you realize, actually, hold on, he's actually not running that many routes. Yeah. Like there are literally 2 teams worth of wide receiver 1 and 2s that are basically running more routes than Jayden Reed. So when you draft Matthew, I don't believe that for a second, that Matthew Golden isn't the wide receiver 1 in that room. Because when you are the Green Bay Packers, for the first time, I can't remember how many years their owner said on the NFL draft, how many years it's been since they took a wide receiver in the first round. 2023? Is that the right number?
Well, since 2003.
Oh, since 2003. That's what it was.
So 22 years.
So
pre-Rodgers.
Come on. So I was basically spot on.
No, big difference, off. Man. Big difference.
All right. I'll shut up. Cameron, your host now. I just egregious mistake on my end for not even ballparking it.
Yes. I mean, it's a tie. Like, what do you like? What? Let's just continue the roast of Jayden Reed. I'll do you right now.
But Ty, I mean, jump in here, because this is a guy that we have been notoriously low on. I just don't think there's like a breakout that we can expect here. Not when you take Matthew Golden in the first round. I think wide receiver 44 is fine value. You can take him there. You can eat your vegetables and just take Jayden Reed to fill out your wide receiver room. But like, I don't think you can expect a breakout here when you look at the raw basic metrics here for Jayden Reed.
Unfortunately,
he's a good player.
He's a good player.
He's a good player, man.
I think the most like damning stat that you can give for Jayden Reed, if the total routes wasn't enough, Green Bay, in terms of 11 personnel, again, 3 wide receivers, they ran it kind of towards the top 12. Like, they were above the average when it came to 3 wide receiver usage. They were bottom 3 in pass rate out of 3 wide receiver sets. And I wonder if that is partially on Matt LaFleur to say, okay, the decoy is going to be these receivers, that Jayden Reed look, he had a ton of design touches. If I'm not mistaken, he was towards the top 10. He was third overall in design touches of wide receivers last year. So you get defenses guessing a little bit, and that just leaves lighter boxes for a Josh Jacobs to just absolutely demolish you. I think that's kind of, I don't want to say that's what Green Bay's offense wants to be, but I kind of think we saw what Green Bay's offense, what Matt LaFleur wants Green Bay's offense to be. And it's not one guy shines, because we need to try to keep everything hidden and try to keep defenses guessing, which works in the NFL. Except for when you get bounced in the first round of the playoffs and you can only go 11-6. But for Jayden Reed's sake, like, sure, there's contingent upside, right? If something happens to Romeo Dobbs and you're likely
something happened to Christian Watson, though.
Well, so here's the glass half full look for Jayden Reed. If there's a guy that's going to do more vertical stuff in this offense with Christian Watson out, it's going to be Jayden Reed. But even at that, they didn't really do it last year.
No.
Can I give you a list of a couple players that ran more routes than Jayden Reed did last year?
Gosh, okay, go ahead. Then I'll put the nail in the coffin then afterwards, because
Calvin Austin, Allen Lazard in 12 games, Josh Palmer in 15 games, Jahan Dotson.
Yes, he's alive. He's alive, Jahan Dotson.
Tyler Boyd in 16 games, Mike Gesicki. Alec Pierce, who was the wide receiver 3 on Indy.
Our cardio
Hank
king.
Bell in 14 games. Tyler Conklin ran more routes. Right. I mean, it's just Zach Ertz ran almost 150 more routes. Michael Wilson ran over 100 more routes. Demarcus Robinson ran 150 more routes. Like, it is pretty gross, the players that are just seeing the field more than Reed. So no matter how talented you think he is, if he's not going to be on the field, it doesn't matter.
Oh, okay. And then he's not earning targets.
Yeah.
He was the wide receiver 52 of all wide receivers with 50 plus targets last year and targets per up run. It's just like you can carve out all the watch when Matthew Golden is distracting defenders on the outside to get more opportunities for Jayden Reed underneath. And it's like, great, well, feed him the football, please. I just until I see it, I don't know where the actual upside is here above, like the wide receiver 30 range for Jayden Reed. It's just the unfortunate reality, despite how much, again, I think all of us can sit here and say, like, Jayden Reed, very talented football player, has been great for the Packers. Problem is, you got to get the ball into this dude's hands, and Matt LaFleur has not shown a lot of interest in actually doing that and getting him onto the field to do so.
Can I clarify something quick?
Go ahead. We clarify something, and then we'll transition to the next guy.
I made it sound like Green Bay doesn't go vertical at all in their offense. They are actually one of the
No. Yeah.
They do it quite a bit. They are one of the top offenses in going deep.
Because Jordan Love wants to.
Right.
I mean, that's Jordan Love's inner being, his inner.
This is a Matthew Golden
coming out of. He's got like the angel on one shoulder of being a game manager, and he's got the absolute Walmart Jameis Winston sitting on his other shoulder, daring him. Chuck it. Close your eyes and chuck it. Do it. 30-30. Ain't nothing. Top 3 fantasy watch quarterback. Just do it.
Did you say you had a Matthew Golden tweet?
I said that is a Matthew Golden tweet of.
Oh, it is.
I think he's gonna be their field stretcher, but that's all right.
Anyways,
so that's probably the cherry on top is we can think it's going to be Jayden Reed, but for all we know, it could be Matthew Golden. It could be Dontavion Wicks, and he miraculously fixes his hands.
Yes.
If he gets robotic hands this year, there's hope, baby. There's hope.
Yeah. Talk about someone to play more snaps.
If you just, if you just put super glue on his hands before the game, we could solve this issue very, very easily.
Maybe.
From one slot wide receiver that's been disappointing to the next, Josh Downs, I think, has more upside than Jayden Reed this year. True or false?
He sees the field more. So
Ty, you gawked at me.
Oh, no. I was about to emphatically say true. Very, very true.
So Cameron says he sees the field more. Ty says very, very true. Your emphatic response, I think will make me lean to you first here. What I don't know why. I don't understand what the discrepancy is here between Downs at 51 to Reed at 44. I get it's quarterback play. I really do.
That might be it.
I mean, look, I'm not going to act like Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones are in the same stratosphere as Jordan Love. I mean, we're talking breathing air on Earth compared to loss of gravity on the moon with Jordan Love. But I don't know. I can't help but think that like Josh Downs, I'm going to have a ton of Josh Downs at wide receiver 51 this year. And I think there's room where he absolutely runs away as the wide receiver one of this offense, like even outshining Michael Pittman.
The dude was top 10 in targets per route run last year.
He was.
This is, I don't want to say this is what you want Jayden Reed to be, or this is what you think Jayden Reed is, but he's
kind of is
on the field. And
kind of is
on the field. He gets targets. I'm just saying it can really be as simple as that sometimes. And I truly do think maybe there is some like offensive bias that comes into it when you're like, well, Green Bay is one of the more efficient and high scoring offenses. So you're going to maybe invest more in Green Bay. And like you said, the quarterback situation just leaves people feeling like there's better out there between Richardson and Daniel Jones. But again, I really do think it's as simple as this. With Shane Steichen as the play caller and kind of the offensive guru here, he's going to try to get his best playmakers out on the field more. And Josh Downs, arguably, and I know they just drafted Tyler Warren and they had Jonathan Taylor, but like Josh Downs may be their most like dynamic weapon in the passing game.
Which is saying something. So I think a lot of people still think Michael Pittman is that guy. I just think if you want the easy completions, you go to Josh Downs. If you want these guys playing in rhythm, you go to Josh Downs. You're not worried about him. You don't need Josh Downs if you be the field stretcher. Again, you can just have him play this role that Jayden Reed already plays for the Packers. I think you can just like copy paste that on here, except, hey, let's actually get Josh Downs out on the field. Where are you at on Josh Downs, Cameron? And I'll give my summative statement afterwards after I get your thoughts, but where are you at on Josh Downs?
So my only concern with Downs is because I feel ready to put him as wide receiver one is Michael Pittman did play pretty much all 2024 with a low back fracture.
Yes.
So right. I mean, he's playing hurt the whole time. And as a big body guy, it's painful every time you get hit. So maybe we see kind of a reemergence of Michael Pittman. But
Mike Pittman.
I said it. And I was like, that's wrong. But at the same time, I'm also wondering, maybe we do see more passing volume out of this team just because if Anthony Richardson doesn't figure it out quickly, even if he doesn't figure it out in training camp, it feels like he's got a very short leash. So either he's going to look significantly better throwing the ball, or they're going to go with Daniel Jones and they're going to work on throwing the ball there. So I do think the passing pie should be a little bit better. My concern a little bit is around Michael Pittman kind of bouncing back, but still wide receiver 51 just feels a little egregious for a guy last year who's a top 36 wide receiver.
Well, scored 1.5 more per game than Jayden Reed last year as well. That was with what? Flacco, Richardson. Who else stepped in for the Colts? Somebody else did. Was it just Flacco and Richardson? No, it was just Flacco and Richardson, wasn't it? Anyways. This one doesn't quite make sense to me. I get it's because of the quarterback. I really do. I get it. Jordan Love is the more like sure locked in thing for Jayden Reed, but I don't want to just take raw stats last year and just copy paste it to this year. But we're looking at a year 3 step forward. If you want to call it a breakout, I just think that's far more likely for Josh Downs than it is for Jayden Reed, if you're asking me. So I think Josh Downs could be a great target in the later rounds of your drafts this year. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it was going to be a top 20 guy, but if he was a top 36 wide receiver in the hodgepodge disaster that was the Indianapolis Colts last year, like what if it goes right? What if it goes right for Josh Downs?
Yeah.
Is there top 24 upside?
You got.
Yeah.
Oof.
I'm throwing it out there. Like,
Yeah.
universe. You can say no, but if with how bad things went, let's not forget how nasty it was. People were literally calling for Anthony Richardson's head. Anthony Richardson could complete 50% of his passes. What if he completes 60% of his passes this year? I'm not saying he's going to, but like, what if it goes right?
Yeah.
We've seen it go right for Jayden Reed. What is it equated to? What if it goes right for Josh Downs and he outperformed Jayden Reed when Indianapolis was a disaster?
Yeah, I guess you gotta say. I mean, there's always been some gross names who find their way into the top 24.
Right.
So if we're talking, hey, he plays 17 games, total points, he's there. I don't think he's a point per game top 24.
No,
but
no. I don't know.
if he can stay healthy, then yeah. I mean, we've seen a year where Teddy Bridgewater had 3 guys in the top 24 with Curtis Samuel, Robbie Anderson, and DJ Moore. So why can't Anthony Richardson get Josh Downs up there? So I think he could sneak in as the wide receiver 24. Points per game wise, I think he's probably going to be closer to like 29 to 30 as his ceiling.
Where are you at, Ty? Go ahead.
Overall wide receiver 1, because we're just manifesting the best, and my dynasty would drastically improve if that happens.
Fair.
Not too much to ask.
Well, no, a relatively small ask for Josh Downs here. I mean, guy you're getting in the 10th round of your fantasy drafts. I'm just asking for the moon. That's all.
Yeah. No big deal.
I know a guy from Despicable Me who can get you the moon if you want me to
God.
hook you up with him. God, that was the worst joke I've ever made. Let's talk about Marvin Mims. That was really bad. I should probably quit podcasting.
God, how old are we? Are we?
I think I might have lost about like 15, 20, 25 subscribers there probably just on that comment alone. I'm sorry. That's my fault, guys.
It's bold.
I'm going to be gone for the next 3 weeks anyway, so you'll be without me. You won't have to worry about subscriber loss. That's not true. Not for 3 weeks. I'll be in and out for the next 3 weeks. I digress. Marvin Mims.
Woo!
Yeah, we're to the gross names now. But when you look at what Denver did this offseason, they really look. Pat Bryant in the 3rd round was a little bit of a stretch. Not uncharacteristic for Sean Payton, though, to go out and just get his guys.
Yes.
Nothing against that. Marvin Mims, wide receiver 58. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
I don't see a path for a breakout here. I'll be perfectly honest. He's a manufactured touch merchant because Sean McVay doesn't want to use him on the deep ball.
Yeah. I mean, it feels about right for a punt returner.
I mean, here's the thing, though. The guy was wide receiver 1 in yards per route run. Of all wide receivers that had at least 150 routes and played at least 14 games. So the most cherry picked stat of all time.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Marvin Mims has got upside that honestly is better than Justin Jefferson, because Jefferson was a wide receiver 3 in yards per route run. So I'm just saying, maybe something's there.
Marvin Mims, the wide receiver 57 overall last year. Anybody want to take a guess at how many points per game he averaged in PPR formats?
6.6.
Little undersold him there. Come on, have some dignity. Have some respect.
I was gonna say that was high.
PPR formats. We're not talking standard around here. Standard, he probably averaged like 5. PPR
standard, I would guess 3.
Yeah.
7.2.
7.6. I'll give you that. 7.6.
Oh, I was a point off.
You were a point. You
That's
were
payback. That's payback for what Zay Flowers 1 game off or whatever.
Yeah,
1 year off. Oh, the Packers receiver.
Packers wide receiver. Just for context, that was a wide receiver 75 last year, points per game for Marvin Mims. So, look, Marvin Mims can prove me wrong with Bo Nix entering year 2 and have a breakout season. I frankly don't see how it gets better than like the wide receiver 45 though.
Can I just say,
if we want to consider that a breakout, hallelujah. But like, go ahead.
I don't want to throw you under the bus for the graphics, but you should have done it 2 picks before Tootin in your little graphic here.
Because Jared Goff is one of the picks.
And you know who the other one is?
Gosh, no, I don't remember off the top of my head, but I remember looking at him and debating if I should put him in. Who's the running?
You want to take a guess, Cam?
Oh, I have no idea.
No, it's not the running back 36. It's his teammate Evan Ingram.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah, why are we drafting those two in the same range? I'll tell you who I prefer in that range. Points this year, Evan Ingram. That's for sure.
We're just trying to figure out who the joker is of this offense, and it still could be Marvin Mims. That's the
upside case. That's the upside case.
I mean,
what if all along it's been this has been Sean Payton long-term storytelling?
Long con.
Right. Let Sean Payton cook.
Sean Payton's in his Triple H era with his long-term storytelling. Marvin Mims has actually been the joker. I've just been throwing darts at all these different players to get you all distracted. Oh man. We'll move to former first round wide receiver in the NFL draft, Quinten Johnston, the Los Angeles Chargers. Look, if they didn't go out and draft Trey Harris this year, I think Quinten Johnston is a interesting conversation. But Trey Harris is the shiny new toy. I think he does a lot of things that Quinten Johnston lacks within his profile. And I think them drafting Trey Harris has kind of signaled, yeah, Quinten Johnston, you're fine. You're probably a sacrificial X wide receiver 3 on our team.
Yeah.
I think the train has left for any kind of a breakout for Quinten Johnston. Agree? I mean, it's a stupid question to say agree or disagree to. Maybe you feel passionately about Quinten Johnston. I sure don't. I think he's just a wide receiver 3 for this team who will have like maybe 2 spike weeks this year when he scores a touchdown. He'll be a waiver wire ad once or twice, but then you'll recognize that he's mostly just a roster clog more than anything else. That's kind of where I land.
Yeah, I don't really see a path to crazy upside for him here. He kind of feels like he's just taking the Josh Palmer route now of, hey, yeah, you can be relevant when we have another guy go down for injury for a week, and then everyone's going to get excited about you on waivers, and then we're going to realize that you're the same guy you were 3 weeks ago. So, I mean, it just feels like you're just going to kind of be on that roller coaster all year with him. Maybe he surprises us. Maybe he stays in there, but I just don't really see it, and I don't hate his wide receiver 65 price tag.
Yeah, no, I don't hate the wide receiver 65 price tag either. I mean, I think he could outperform Marvin Mims this year.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, well, right. I know. Again, what do we want to classify as a breakout? I just don't think that's in the cards for Quinten Johnston. But I also think it's true that in redraft formats he's going to be undrafted, and again, he'll probably be he'll make a waiver wire video or 2 this year, and then you'll realize he's droppable the week after he doesn't perform when Trey Harris misses 2 weeks because of a tight hamstring or something.
Holy cow! I don't want to keep this conversation going on too long because we all agree, like, the breakouts past saw a player here, the wide receiver 65. Nearly 60% of his routes were vertical based. Yeah. So you're talking, again, goes and posts and corners and hitches. 60% of his routes. And I think the majority of people would tell you that's not his strength.
No.
His strength is after the catch. So that's why we're in on him as a player at the wide receiver 65, because we're taking him out of that vertical role. That's going to be Trey Harris. Hopefully. Where Quinten Johnston can be a guy that's a threat after the catch now. It may not amount to a whole lot. He may end up still being outside the top 50. But in terms of just value hunting in a draft, especially in best ball right now, like,
right.
It's not too bad. It's not too bad.
You know who the wide receiver 24 was from week 9 on last year? Quinten Johnston.
Mims. Oh.
Marvin Mims was wide receiver 22 from week 11 on last year.
Hey.
I was the wide receiver 1 in week 18 on the Kansas City Chiefs.
Well.
Last name that I think is worth talking about here, Cedric Tillman.
Yes.
Look, we got a 3-week stretch where he was the wide receiver 1 overall, averaging 22 fantasy points per game on a team that needs wide receiver help. Traded out of Travis Hunter, who could have given them that. Move down to 5 to get Mason Graham. Future draft cap. I get it. I'm not saying it was an outright egregious trade or bad trade. I'm just stating facts. This is a team that didn't add to their wide receiver room. Cedric Tillman walks in potentially as the wide receiver 2 outright to Jerry Jeudy, albeit behind David Njoku. Just had to deal with concussions over the back half of last season. So is Cedric Tillman, is there anything more there? Was he just a flash in the pan? Could we get like a breakout top 36 season here from Cedric Tillman at all in an offense that just needs pass catchers? I'm throwing out a hypothetical. Again, I'm not forecasting. I'm just proposing the question.
Who's his quarterback? Is it Jameis?
Great question. Yeah, no, great question. Yeah, phenomenal question. That's the context you need to factor in here too.
If it's not Jameis, then it's not happening.
Not even Joe Flacco can't tickle your fancy a little bit.
No. Sorry.
Yeah, well, the issue is it might not be Flacco because it might be Kenny Pickett or it might be Dylan Gabriel or it might be Shedeur Sanders.
Dylan Gabriel, might not be able to see over their offensive line.
Oh, jeez.
Well, hey.
I mean, what happens when you're 5'6"? I mean,
I was gonna say if people can make fun of Kyler for it, if they can make fun of Bryce Young for it, we gotta throw it on the guy who's shorter than both. I'm just saying.
Third percentile height on Dylan Gabriel, just for reference.
There's a legitimate chance this team throws for less than 3,000 yards this year.
Oh,
I mean, it's just
wow.
It's just I'm just saying how bad their quarterback play is going to be.
As the pro Jerry Jeudy guy, not even Jerry Jeudy can save them.
No, I mean, well, that's the thing is like I don't think he's better than Jeudy. So, and like you said, he got
over Deontay Johnson.
Hey, Deontay Johnson did he sign or I thought he got cut or did he already sign back with
already
signed.
That's crazy. That's signed to the cut a day and a half later.
Well, I didn't know if he was complaining about the playing time yet
dude,
or not.
he's just collecting NFL teams like Infinity Stones at this point. Just collect them all. They're Pokemon cards.
He's already got a standing meeting with Kevin Stefanski.
Give me a 10-day contract. You can cut me 10 days later.
Yeah, he's got a week 1, Tuesday after. He's got a standing meeting with Stefanski to go complain about playing time.
Yeah, right. It's already in his Google Calendar.
I'll see you there, coach.
I'll see. I also okay. We're really off track of Cedric Tillman. I need to backtrack on Dylan Gabriel. I said he was shorter than both Bryce Young and Kyler Murray. I need to retract that statement. He's taller than both. I had him pegged at 5'9".
So he's 5'8".
He is 5'11".
Yeah, he's 5.
Kyler Murray and Bryce Young are both 5'10". So, okay. All right. I apologize to Dylan Gabriel. You are 1 inch taller than both. I still think the statement stands.
Well, is that a combine measurement or is that a pro day measurement? Because
that was a combine measurement.
Oh, okay.
Man. I forgot he's a lefty. Oh, they have no shot.
So throw the Cedric Tillman hype out the window. Any possibility? Lefty? God.
Oh my god. It's 6 foot tall Tim Tebow out here. It's just
Southpaw. Southpaw, no
brutal.
thanks. I'm good.
Brutal.
All right. So neither of you are interested in Cedric Tillman. Wide receiver 67 price tag. I'm throwing plenty of darts in best ball. Redraft. I'll let him be a waiver wire pickup similar to Quinten Johnston if he has a spike week or two. Just because this wide receiver room I think is a little bit more open-ended than others in the NFL.
Give me DeAndre Hopkins at the wide receiver 75 instead.
I think Brenton Strange, baby.
Well, figure out roster construction. Just take Brenton Strange. You're right. Who's going to end up being
exactly. Just take Braylon Allen. Am I right, Ty?
Your favorite guy, Pop Douglas, wide receiver 76.
Yes.
Mega upside with Pop. Oh gosh, he's a year 3 wide receiver too. Do we need to spend 5 minutes on Pop Douglas?
I think we do. Let's do it.
Restart it.
I don't have a graphic
at the top.
Oh man. Well, make sure if you've made it all the way through our year 3 wide receiver video, make sure you go check out our year 2 wide receiver video as well. Again, these 2 years are the 2 most important years for wide receivers. It's the 2 most likely years we see breakouts from them. So they are often very helpful players to target in drafts, or if you want a late round dart throw, in my opinion, err on the side of youth and potential opportunity in an offense versus a guy like Josh Palmer, who sure is in a good offense, but the pecking order there is really, really sloppy. So, again, if you enjoy this content, if you enjoy laughing along with us as we joke about Cedric Tillman and Quinten Johnston and Marvin Mims as being the Joker, whatever it may be, make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell as well. Really, I mean, our goal is to remind you all of, yes, the competitiveness of fantasy football, the analysis that goes into it, but ultimately the camaraderie that it creates. That's literally the reason that it brought the 3 of us together while we were in college was, we all love fantasy football. Yeah, we all enjoy the competitiveness of it, but we enjoy the camaraderie first and foremost, above all else that it brings between the people in your life that you are close with. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell as well. We appreciate your support in whatever capacity you show that to us. You can follow us on our other socials as well. FFL is on Twitter. The FFL is on Instagram. Fantasy Football Fellas on Facebook and TikTok. Some really fun short form content coming out for you all as the summer unfolds. The personal socials as well, those a follow. We're relatively active on there. I'm at Lucas Wenzel on X, Camlaw FFF for Cameron, Tyler _Plath for Ty. We'll be back next week. Do we got early rankings next week? Is that what it is?
Oof,
I haven't even looked at the schedule.
Oh boy.
It is early rankings next week. Top 36 running backs for redraft, top 36 wide receivers for redraft as well. So those are very, very early rankings. We'll be back later in the offseason to give you our projected rankings straight from our draft guide. More on that to come. But tune in next week. We'll have a fun little ranking show debate. We'll see you all then. Deuces.